Hey everyone, this is Nadia and welcome to my channel where I wander around London and tell you fascinating stories about working in tech. Today I'm walking around Notting Hill, a posh area in West London, and I'll be talking about the recent news in tech. So unless you've been under the rock for the last couple of weeks, you might have heard that there is a lot of heavy news coming from different tech companies. People are being laid off. Some companies have laid off a pretty large percentage of their employees, and what's been particularly shocking for many engineers is that within these types of layoffs, engineers are actually getting laid off as well. Typically, from what I know, engineering talent and designers are not being affected by those kinds of lays off, but in this case, people are actually losing their jobs on a pretty massive scale. So I thought that I would address this news and share some of my thoughts on this situation. And I will be actually very curious to hear what you think and how these events made you feel. So first of all, I think that one thing that is very important to do is to actually stop doom scrolling. If you have learned the news of massive lays off in the industry, I think that's pretty much enough. Like, you don't need to know anything else. You don't need to follow all of those stories, all those heartbreaking stories on LinkedIn. I know that it's very hard to stop following things like that, and stories like that are actually kind of addictive, but also you have to realize that this is how the media cycle works. The stories that appear, a lot of them are very anxiety producing, and a lot of the times there is not much value in reading the same story over and over, right? So all it does is creates additional anxiety for you and makes you less productive. So that would be the first step. The second step, I think, is to think, what would you do if you were told tomorrow that you don't have your job? So imagine if you come to work tomorrow and your boss calls you, or maybe they send you a pre-recorded message that says, "Hey, sorry, but you're fired. Goodbye." Right? So what do you do? Like, how do you react? And how do you feel? And then what your next steps are. I've heard an opinion that it's not really reasonable to think about those things because all it does, it adds more anxiety to your life, but I actually happen to disagree. I think that if you think of this terrible scenario of you not having a job and you think it through and you kind of come up with ways and steps of how you will actually address this situation, right? Then it means that when this thing actually happens, you will be much better prepared. You won't be taken aback and you won't be freaked out, right? So I see a lot of value in thinking through this scenario. So if you were told that you are laid off, how prepared would you be for finding another job quickly, if you need to find it quickly? Here, I think that if you feel that you would be very ill prepared for that, there are a couple of things that you can actually do to fix the situation, and they won't be very time consuming, I would say. So I don't suggest you start like a full-on job search, before you get laid off. I just suggest that you spend maybe 20 or 30 minutes every day, or maybe every other day, taking some smaller steps towards making any potential job search less stressful and also less, just more efficient. So one thing that you can try to do is have a look at your LinkedIn profile. I'm actually pretty big on LinkedIn and think that it is an amazing tool for finding career opportunities and for building a professional network. So if you take a look at your LinkedIn, like, what do you see? Does it look professional? How does your headline look? Do you have a summary? Do you have anything there? Do you have any details about your job experience there? Do you have your achievements listed, your skills? Do you have all those keywords that help you find a job sprinkled over your LinkedIn profile? There are tons of resources that will teach you how to make your LinkedIn profile stand out, and it might make sense to take a look at them and think of what you can do to improve the quality of your LinkedIn profile, right? Even if you don't need to find a job right now, even if you don't lose your current job, it will still be beneficial for you for finding new opportunities in the future. Because you never know when you might need to change jobs or to look for other projects or, anything like that. You can do the same thing with your resume or your CV. You can start with thinking like, where is my CV? What it looks like. For most people, I would say that probably most people who have jobs, they also have CVs of some form, right? However, those CVs might be out of date. Most likely they don't have any information on your current job. They might have information on your previous job, but most likely you haven't really been updating it, which is fine. This might be a good moment to do that. Even if you don't need to find another job right now, you might want to find another job in a couple of years, but in a couple of years it will be a little bit difficult to remember what you were working on in your current job. So if you take my advice and you fill out this and you brush up on your, refresh your resume, you might be very grateful to yourself and maybe to me in a couple of years when this information becomes relevant. So refreshing your resume is something that shouldn't take a lot of time. You can also see, check out whether the skills that you have there and the experiences that you have there are all relevant. Maybe something changed. Maybe you would like to add some new achievements, maybe some new certificates or courses that you completed, whatever it might be. So just take a look at it, refresh it. No big deal, no commitment. You just do that and you forget about it. Why it's important? Why those steps are important is that right now you are in a very calm state. You don't need to find a job. You have your own job, your old job. It means that you are not in a stressed out state. So you are able to think clearly. It means that also now is a good moment for you to do kind of a brainstorm of what companies actually interest you. So are there any companies where you would like to work? Are there any industries where you would like to work? Make a list or like a mind map of a couple of places where you would be interested in working. And try to think of do you have any dream companies? What interests you, really? I think that again, now when you're not stressed out, you're able to think of those things clearly. If you get laid off and you lose your job, you will be in a survival mode, right? You will even if you're very controlled and very calm, your thinking will still change, especially if you need to urgently find a job, if you need money urgently, or if you need to have a job in order to keep your visa, right? This is a very stressful situation, especially if people depend on you, especially if you have kids in school and you have just moved to a new country and now you lose your job because of some layoff, and you have to quickly find a new job, or you will be kicked out of the country. Like, it's not fun, right? And you don't want to be in this position when you have to decide where you want to work, because first of all, you might make pretty bad decisions. When people are stressed out, they don't make the best decisions for themselves. They are thinking out of the position of scarcity and need, and first of all, they don't make the best decisions, and also the people who will reach out to them with jobs, recruiters and hiring managers, they will sense their desperation, and they will sense that you actually really need the job. And this is a very bad position for negotiation, because the golden rule of negotiation is that you have to not care about the results of negotiation, which is clearly impossible when you actually need the job, right? So kind of try to do that work up front. Think of where you would like to work in theory. Think of, if you have such companies, it makes sense to follow them on LinkedIn or on their websites, to follow their job alerts, kind of casually seeing what's out there, what kind of positions they advertise, what they're offering, like in general, what's happening in the space. I'm not sure how many people are watching me who are also big fans of Seinfeld. If you are here, please show yourself in the comments. So there was an episode there where one of the main characters, George Costanza, is talking to a lady who was responsible for giving or not giving him his unemployment benefits, and there is one moment where she asks him, like, how are you looking for a job? And he says, it's not so much about looking, it's also about listening for jobs. And I kind of like this expression, and I think that it is relevant. You need to be in the mindset where you are open, to opportunities floating around you. I think that very often there is so much information floating around us, right? If we have friends and we have social circle, we will always hear and we will always see a lot of opportunities everywhere, and they're always there. However, there is so much information that we filter out the stuff that we don't need right now. So what might help is to kind of switch on the mode of being open to opportunities around you. And once you start looking for things like that, you will actually see how many opportunities are there and how much abundance is there in this world. You can kind of remember this feeling once you switch. If you have to find a job urgently, you will have this knowledge and the realization that there is so much stuff happening, there are so many jobs, and that there won't be any issues for you to find a job if you need it. So this is kind of preparations, and this is stuff that won't take you a lot of time to prepare. But of course, it will take some time, so you need to be aware of that. But I think that ultimately it may pay off in a big way for you. And then once you did that, you kind of, we don't know what will happen in a couple of weeks or months. I'm pretty pessimistic about the kind of direction where the whole thing is heading in terms of economy and in general. So we don't know what will happen. But then the next step might be to actually brush up on your interviewing skills. In tech, from what I know, from my experience and from experience of people that I've talked to, once you work at a company for a long time, you kind of lose the skills of interviewing, right? Interviewing in tech uses many of the skills that you don't really practice in your day-to-day work. There are things that you only use in interviews, and then you forget about them. And then you need to study them again to go through interviews again. So it is a good idea, I think, at some point to refresh some of the skills that you particularly struggle with. For, you know, it might be something completely different for everybody. For some, it will be like, you know, going to lead code and doing some challenges there. For others, it might be practicing behavioral interviews or something completely different. So you know best what you struggle with. And imagine if you are in a situation where you have to find a job urgently. You want to be in a position where you are able to pass an interview, right? And you're also probably aware that it matters quite a lot how well you do at an interview. So you want to be in a position where you can pass those technical interviews and you can negotiate for a good offer. So these were some of the things that I've thought about during this week. I think that following these tips might make any potential negative events in the market easier for you. Keeping kind of a positive mindset and being open to opportunities, and also invest in time.
Don't say that. Don't say things like that.
It's lovely. I think investing in networking is also very useful and something that might really pay off for you. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to share today. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on the current economic downturn. See you in the next one. Bye.